Ariel Helwani at the Zuffa headquarters in Las Vegas, Nevada, just days away now from UFC 155, and we're being joined by UFC President Dana White. And Dana, thank you so much for the time. Just a day removed from Christmas. Happy holidays. Just wondering off the top, other than, of course, this interview, did you get anything good for the holidays?
Yeah, I got to spend some time with my family, hang out with my kids. It was great.
So nothing material, just the more family stuff.
Don't need anything material. Yeah.
At this point.
I don't need anything. I'm good.
All right, so like I said, days removed or days away from UFC 155, the big title rematch. I want to ask you first about the first fight. Did you know, and now it's starting to come out a little more, Cain's putting out video of his injury. How much did you know about his injury going into the fight?
I still didn't know about it till you just said it. He's putting out video of injury?
No, of the first fight. He was badly injured. He tore his ACL, right?
Okay. No, they didn't tell us that.
You had no idea that Cain was injured going into that fight?
No idea. Because if somebody tells me that they're injured, we're probably going to talk them out of not fighting. Right. It depends on the ACL, though. Sometimes, sometimes you can fight with a blown ACL.
And he did. Yeah. But he put out a video recently.
There's been guys who have fought with no ACL.
Right. He put out a video recently of the injury, and there was talk after that JDS was injured. So I guess what I was getting at was, do you think those guys stepped up and fought because it was such a big show for the UFC? And in hindsight, that really wasn't the real JDS versus Cain. We're going to get that on Saturday.
Only they know that. Only they know how they felt going into that fight. But, when you talk about the heavyweights, and I said it leading up to that fight, this fight could be 30 seconds. It could go 5 rounds. And it could be the same on Saturday. You never know. Junior Dos Santos is a big puncher. Cain Velasquez, he got caught in that fight. Usually he's got a really good chin, takes some shots, and, he was undefeated going into that fight. So the fight that I expected it to be the first time, I expect it to be this time again. But at the same time, either one of those guys could get clipped and get knocked out.
You were on Fox after the fight, and you were critical of Cain's game plan in the fight. It was a very short fight, though. Yeah. In hindsight, do you think you were a little too critical?
I was just giving my opinion. Right. I don't know if I was critical. I mean, as a fight fan, everybody has an opinion after the fight. Everybody's an expert. Everybody, knows what he should have done or what this guy should have done. And I just said, at what point do you shoot? But just a fan. That was my opinion. I don't think I was critical of him.
Now knowing that he had a knee injury, I guess it kind of makes sense why he didn't shoot earlier on, right?
Only he knows that. Right. Like I said, if Junior Dos Santos was hurt going into that fight or had something wrong, he knows, and Junior said it after the fight was over. I was hurt. If this fight would have went to the ground, I would have been in big trouble. And only Cain knows, Cain probably should have came out and shot. Who knows? Again, as a fight fan watching the fight, that was what I thought.
Now, also on the card, we've got the return of Chris Leben. We haven't seen Chris in over a year. He was suspended. I know he's someone that, you've obviously known him for a while due to The Ultimate Fighter. Are you convinced that he has turned his life around?
I think, Leben's a guy who's been battling demons his whole life. And I think throughout his entire life, he's going to have good moments and bad moments. Hopefully, he's got some good ones right now. He's a guy that I respect. He's a warrior. He always comes to fight. He always has exciting fights. And he's a guy that, like you said earlier, I've known for a long time, and I care about the guy. So,
when's the last time you talked to him?
Last time I talked to him, I probably talked to him around that time. It was right before, he went through this whole last mess. Right. I talked to him, and I talked to his girlfriend, and, we got him going in the right direction.
So you are convinced, at least based on maybe what other people are telling you, that he's at least clean now? Because he talked about having a serious problem, going into that fight against Mark Munoz.
Yeah, he sent me a really nice text a few months ago, and, we got 475 guys. I don't talk to guys every day. These guys have their own life and things that they're dealing with. It's not just the guys like Chris Leben. These guys are all human beings. They all have things and issues and stuff that they have to deal with. Sometimes it's at a scale where I have to get involved and help, and sometimes it's not, or sometimes it's just a conversation. But last time we talked was, when he was in a bad way, and then he sent me a really nice text, about a month ago.
Last time I asked you about Todd Duffy, it was UFC 119 a couple of years back in Indianapolis. You had just released him because you felt like he didn't want to be a UFC fighter. He had attitude problems, and you just didn't get that vibe from him. He's back. He's fighting on Saturday. Again, I know you don't speak to the guys on a daily basis, but Are you getting the sense maybe from other people that this is someone who has turned his life around?
I don't know. We'll find out. Todd Duffy knows what I'm talking about when I said that. I know he knows. And, you know, you hear a lot of it here in the UFC. You'll hear that, oh, this, oh, that. You know, people bitch about certain things, but then they realize how good it was in the UFC when they're not here anymore. You know, we do the best we can. Are we perfect? Hell no. We're far from perfect, but we really do care about the fighters. We really do care about the sport, and we do the best we can by everybody. You know, but you're going to have people sometimes that feel everybody. I mean, everybody in every situation. Guarantee you, the guy who's holding this camera for you right now is not making enough money. He wants to be paid more. You always want to be paid more. You know, it's human nature. Everybody needs more money. Everybody wants to make more money. But we run a business, and you know, we're the most. How should I say this? There has never been a promoter in history who treats their fighters the way that we do. And if there is, I've never fucking heard of them. I can tell you that. We take very good care of everybody. We pay guys money that we don't owe them, just because we want to and we feel that they delivered, or, you know, we were happy with their performance. Whatever the reason might be, we pay guys money that we don't owe them all the time, every event.
And you know, your boxing friends are going to love that statement, because they continue to say that you don't pay your fighters enough.
Right. Yeah. Well, we're doing something right over here. Right. You know, the boxing guys have been talking shit for 13 years. We're doing something right over here. In fact, we're doing it so right that they're all starting to copy us now. So
how so?
You tell me.
Well, people like to hear from you.
Yeah, don't play your bullshit with me. How so? Come on, let's draw this thing out. You know what they're doing. They're all copy. The thing that I respect the most about Oscar De La Hoya, he doesn't hide the fact. He says it straight out. You're damn right we are. I actually watched Bernard Hopkins on Jim Rome the other day. He literally came out and said the way the UFC does things is the right way to do it, and that's the way boxing needs to be. We need to follow that model, you know, and he's De La Hoya's partner. Right. And I respect the fact that they don't have any problem, and especially a guy like Bernard Hopkins, who was a guy who came out and was very critical about MMA in the beginning. But like everybody else, including myself, he got educated about the sport, learned about it, and learned about the business, and he's man enough to come out and say, hey, listen, they're doing it right, and we should do it like this too.
It's interesting you mentioned that, because in December alone, I don't know if you know this, but boxing returned to network television. First time since Hopkins fought. They were on CBS, and then they were on NBC, which is obviously very noteworthy, but in a year where the UFC made its real debut on network television. And I'm wondering, do you feel like maybe in 5 or so years, pay-per-view is going to be no more? It's really just you know, WWE, and the odd boxing event now that's on pay-per-view. Now with more network, you know, television, you know, groups wanting to get involved, do you think that maybe pay-per-view will be obsolete 5 or so years from now?
No. I think there's always going to be pay-per-view fights, because, you know, there's fights that you can put on FX and fights that you can put on Fox and fights that you can put on CBS and NBC and other places. But there's always going to be that blockbuster big fight that everybody wants to see. That'll be a pay-per-view event.
You don't think a network will say, we want that fight and we're going to pay top dollar for it, the same way that there's a huge football match that people want to see and it's on network TV?
It's possible. Yeah, it's possible.
You don't see it going that way?
I don't see all the fights going that way. It could. Listen, anything could happen, but I don't know. We'll see.
You used to talk a lot about the internet and that being the future, the way people will watch things. Are you still feeling that way, or do you think that it's still TV, pay-per-view, that kind of thing?
Yeah, TV and pay-per-view is going to be. I just had a big argument the other day with somebody about this, about the internet versus television, and they were saying in the next 5 years that television, people are going to stop watching television and start. It's a possibility, and I've always believed that that's going to happen. If you look at a company like YouTube. Look how massive YouTube is, how much content they provide. Google is you know, making a lot of moves right now to get into the, you know, the television space, whatever you want to call it, content or whatever you want to call it. But I think TV is going to be around for a long time.
I spoke to you in September for that sit-down interview for Fuel TV about the year that was, and we talked a bit about, you know, what had happened the first 9 months of the year. But now we're December, we're about to approach January 1st. You look back at this year, obviously the highs were being on Fox, there were a lot of great fights, but there were a lot of injuries, a lot of canceled fights, a lot of things you had to deal with, UFC 151. How would you characterize this year, 2012?
Yeah, it was an odd year in that, you know, things that you didn't see affecting your business a couple years ago, happened. If you'd have told me 2 years ago that there will be a year when every one of your main event guys will get hurt and you'll have to cancel the main and co-main events, I'd have said, I don't even think that's possible. I guess anything's possible. I couldn't see it happening. But I think what last year really, really showed us is you have a lot of people who love to hate on the UFC, who love to talk negatively about the business. I think if there was ever proof that this business is here to stay, it was last year.
How did it affect business? I mean, was it a major blow compared to 2011, which was a great year for you guys?
Yeah, I mean, it definitely wasn't 2011. And we had a bunch of problems in 2011 too with injuries. But 2012 smoked 2011 as far as injuries and things that you don't see coming. It was definitely one of those years. Was it a horrendous year? No, it was still a good year for us, but it could have been a lot better.
Dare I say business as usual?
Yeah, I mean, if you look at all the problems we had, we still and in all honesty, I think that we delivered great events all year except for Calgary. Right. I think that, I'm always very confident going into an event that we're going to deliver because the guys do. The guys always deliver. And we didn't. We did not deliver in Calgary. That was probably our lowest of the lows. Even canceling, the Jones event wasn't as bad as the Calgary event. We went in there, we sold out, and there were a lot of people that were upset about that Calgary event. But if you look at our track record over 13 years, we had more than a bad event. The UFC at Mandalay Bay, the first one in Vegas, was horrible too. Place was packed, people were excited, and that was the worst show, the worst fights ever.
Are you going to make it up to Calgary considering how badly you feel about that?
Well, obviously, yeah. It's something that really bothers me, and it's the thing that stands out in my head the most is that I do want to go back to Calgary, and I want to deliver next time.
Other than the obvious fights are getting canceled, from my perspective, the big issue coming out of the injuries is that fans are now saying, you come out and you announce a great card. They keep saying, well, let's see what happens 2 weeks before. They're not buying into it. They're waiting to buy plane tickets and buy tickets for their family and friends. How do you now gain their trust back in that sense?
Well, it's something that could always be a problem. You can never guarantee that a card's going to stay together. I mean, since the beginning of fights on television, the card always says subject to change because anything can happen. But what's more important to me is, like this Calgary event, the fight might not stay together, but we're going to put together great fights and put on a great show. And like I said, one time it didn't happen. And even when I talk about the UFC in Vegas, it was just, it wasn't because of injuries or anything like that. That card just sucked. All the fighters didn't deliver that night. The fights all sucked. And the place was sold out. It was 2 weeks after September 11th. It was the first time people really went out and wanted to go to an event again. The place was sold out, packed at Mandalay Bay, and every fight sucked. But over the last 13 years, I can count on one hand how many cards have absolutely sucked.
We've seen the relationship with Fox evolve this year, and it was highlighted by the great showing on December 8th in Seattle, a great rating for that event. Any changes or things to look out for come 2013 as far as the broadcast is concerned?
Yeah, all positive. It took us, what people have to understand is when we first got on Fox, these two big companies getting together, and Fox had never been in a deal where they didn't control everything. So even though we controlled all the production, they still had a lot of say and on how they wanted things done. And now we've gotten to a point where we couldn't work together better. We couldn't have better relationships with the guys who are there running it on every platform throughout Fox. I couldn't like the guys better. They're young, smart, aggressive guys. From the guy who runs Fuel to the guys at FX to the guy who runs all of sports, Eric Shanks. We love being in the deal with these guys. We love the relationship, and this is where we want to stay.
Were you happy with the way the ratings were reported after Fox 5?
How were they reported?
Well,
I don't even know.
You have had issues with the way the media has reported the ratings. These were positive ratings, so I was wondering if you were okay with it.
Hasn't even been on my mind.
I guess that's a good thing because they were good.
I guess so.
Wondering, and you haven't been asked this in a while, what's your relationship like with MMA media these days? You have had a very interesting relationship over the years, ups and downs. What do you think about MMA media?
Yeah, I don't. You know, I was leaving the finale last week, and the Sherdog guys were sitting outside, and you know, they're like, "Can we talk to you? Can we get an interview?" I said, "Yeah." I mean, I really don't have a problem with the Sherdog guys anymore. It doesn't bother me. I'm actually gonna let my crew know we'll credential Sherdog again. So
Well, that's good.
I guess that tells you where I'm at.
So overall, you're happy with the way the sport is being reported, not just from the MMA media, the mainstream media. Are you okay? Because this has always been a very people are interested in your take on this.
There's always some stupid shit. You know, there's always, you know, it's funny that you asked me that because I don't know why, but I was thinking about Loretta Hunt today, this morning. I swear to God, okay. You know,
Read your mind.
And, you know, I think she's a horrible reporter. Take away all the stuff that's been done, you know, the things that the stories that she wrote that were not only so much of the stuff was false, but just bullshit stories, bullshit lies and bullshit stories. You know, there's two reporters, the Grosses and the Hunts that I will never. It was just, I just think they're bad people. Okay. And I will never. And the way that, you know, the funny thing is in that video blog, when all that stuff went down with me, it wasn't even about her. It was about that word that I said. Me saying that word in that video blog gave her more legs than anything. You know, she was making it look like she was such a victim of that blog, and she's such a victim, and just ridiculous, sickening. And I'll never, those two I will never forget, never forgive or forget.
But you're happy overall, and that's good that you say here. A little bit of breaking news that Sherdog is back in the mix, as you say.
Yeah, and really the biggest problem with Sherdog back in the day were those two people. Those were the two people that were over there and just doing dirty stuff. Dirty.
Since you're in the giving mood, it's the holidays and whatnot, let's finally clear this up. It's almost apropos. We were here 2 years ago breaking the news about Strikeforce. We just got the final word. Strikeforce is no more come January 12th. The press release went out. It's official. Can you?
Awesome. When did that come
Did you know that?
I didn't know that either.
Breaking news for you. Can you explain how it ended the way it did?
I don't run that company.
But you know.
Oh, I know. And I'd love to tell you. Believe me.
Yeah.
I'd love to tell you. But it's not worth it.
Why not?
It's not worth it. Because you know me. I'll go mental right now. It'll be great for you. And then I'll have to deal with all the bullshit after. It's just not worth it.
So it's just done.
I'll tell you what. And you're right. We were here talking about this last time. And I told you how pumped I was about it. You know, and everybody thinks that it's, you know, I read the stuff that people say on the internet and they think it's all bullshit. Like, oh, he said that, all that stuff. He said all that stuff, but really what he wanted to do was kill this thing, make it go away so that they could, let me tell you what, nothing could be further from the truth. Everything that I told you in that first interview was true. I was pumped and fired up to dive into that thing. I started reaching out to fighters that were in Strikeforce and I wanted to do it, but it just wasn't the way it was really supposed to be. Not on our end. Not on our end.
The relationship wasn't meant to be. You couldn't work it out.
Wasn't meant to be.
Are you happy, though, that you have to stop answering questions about Strikeforce that come January 12th, this is done, right?
Mm-hmm. And I know I'm happy, but, you know, all the other fighters that are over there are happy to finally get over here, too. So,
who are you most looking forward to having in the UFC, other than the women, of course?
All of them. I'm excited for. I'm actually happy and have a lot of respect for all the guys that have been over there and have put up with all the bullshit that's gone on over the last year. You know, a lot of guys went through a lot of shit, and a lot of guys were hurt by this deal. You know what I mean? And I really have a lot of respect for all of them that have been over in Strikeforce, put up with all the bullshit, and now they're finally coming over here, and their life will be a lot different.
Do you think Showtime will remain in the MMA business?
Who knows? Who gives a shit? Right. Who cares? I don't care.
Just a couple more things. We'll let you go. We appreciate the time. Internationally, it seems like 2013 is going to be a very big year for the fans across the pond and around the world. There are a lot of events already announced. Japan, you've got the Brazil show. It seems to me like Fuel and FX events are going to be international events. Is that the plan going forward?
Not really. There's a lot that are, but that's not the plan. That's not the way that. What we want to do is obviously when we do these events in other countries, we want to make sure that the people here in the U.S. can see them. I always like to bring the fans, all the fights that we have so they can see all the fights. I know there's people that want to see all of them. It's the same thing that in the UK. You know, every time we do an event, I got the people in the UK going, what the fuck? We can't watch this. How can we see it? You know, and not just the UK, other countries that we don't have deals in, you know, major deals where everybody can see it, like FX. And, you know, FX is in 100 million homes. Fuel, people bitch about fuel. They can't see, you know, we don't have fuel. Comcast is killing us and this and that. You know, we're doing everything we can to make as many people possible throughout the world have access to these fights and watch them.
A lot of people wondering why you have not returned to Abu Dhabi. Of course, Flash Entertainment still owns 10% of the company. Right. Any update on that?
We will. Okay. Yeah, we will. It's just a matter of working it out. Actually, me and Frank and Lorenzo are due for a trip to Abu Dhabi, I think. You know, we got to go out there and meet with those guys and sit down. But, yeah, it's nothing negative like, you know, Abu Dhabi doesn't want another event or we won't do another event there. We'll be back in Abu Dhabi.
Do they have any say in what goes on day to day here?
They don't call us and do that. But yeah, if they called us, you know, if Sheikh Taknoon or his brother, the Crown Prince, called tomorrow and said, whatever they said. I mean, I don't know what, you know, we want an event held over here. We'd like to talk about you doing this here. I want to see this guy fight that guy. Of course we would. You know, we're great partners with everybody that we're in business with. They're not those kind of guys. That's not what they do. But if they did, we absolutely would, yeah.
Any other places? I know Mark Fisher mentioned Indonesia. Other names or cities, countries have been thrown around. Any other places you could tell us about where the UFC will at least debut or return come 2013 internationally? We have a lot of international fans, and please don't upset the Irish fans. They will come and take that.
Yeah, I'm actually going to be in Ireland. When's the event in London?
February 16th.
Yeah, February 16th. I'll be in Ireland. Trinity College, the university over there, is giving me an award, so I'll be in Ireland. So I'm
gonna hunt you down.
That's when I go over there to do this. I'm gonna tweet to all the Irish over there so they can come over there and kick my ass while I'm in Ireland. Maybe what I'll do is all the Irish fans in Ireland that have been terrorizing me to bring an event back there. We'll go to the biggest pub over by Trinity College, and I'll go and have a drink with all you guys. You know, I'll buy you all a drink to apologize for not having been there for so long.
That means also that they're probably not getting an event in 2013, right?
Yeah, right. I'll buy you 2 drinks.
Let's end on this. I know you said in January that you are going to finally have that surgery. Is that still the case?
Yep. January 15th, I think, is my date for surgery, and then a couple days later is the event in Brazil.
You'll be able to go.
I'll be there. I don't know if I'm able to go, but I'm going.
Don't you need some recovery?
Back on. I'll have stitches all in the back of my ear here and shit, and I'm going. I'll be
nervous.
No, I'm excited.
And what if it doesn't go? Because it's not 100%, right?
70%.
70%.
Yeah, but I haven't had an attack in a long time. It's been a while since I've had one. The last time I had an attack was when we went to Toronto. Then had to go right from there to England. Right. That was the last time I had an attack.
So it's happening in January. Does this mean, though, and not related to this, but maybe, you know, you missed a couple events this year. You made history. You missed the one in Virginia. You missed the one in China. You talked about having this sort of control center here where you can produce the events. Does this mean Dana White won't be at every UFC or maybe not even 90% of the UFCs next year?
I'll be at as many as I can possibly go to. I want to go. It's not like I don't want to go to the events. But the other ones that I wasn't at this year wasn't because of my ear. It was because it was the end of the year and we were crazy here. We had so much stuff going on. And yes, the command center works out pretty good. We like it.
Any parting words for the people? They enjoy these interviews. They like to hear from you other than the video blogs. Anything you want to say to the people after a very interesting year for the UFC in 2012?
Yeah, you know, I would say that too. It was an interesting year. But I'm very excited for 2013. We got a lot of good fights. As long as everybody stays healthy and everything goes as planned, it should be an awesome 2013.
All right, well, one more piece of business to go for 2012. UFC 155. It airs live on pay-per-view this Saturday night. Cain Velasquez versus Junior Dos Santos. There are still tickets available here in Las Vegas. If you're not in Las Vegas, of course, you can watch it live on pay-per-view. Thank you so much, Dana. Above all, you give us a lot of your time. You didn't have to do this after the holidays. We appreciate it, and I know the fans do as well.
Pleasure, brother. Thank you.